Welcome back to the Holistic Monitor. I'm your host, Nic Scogna. In this episode, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating aspects of the self-awareness formulas, or SAF, how the system gives language to the invisible processes of life energy. You've probably felt it before, that inner sense that something is off, even when you can't quite explain it. SAF provides a structure, a way to understand what's happening beneath the surface, both in the body and in the mind. Today we're going to talk about how that works, how practitioners interpret these patterns, and why this matters in a world that is just beginning to reconnect with the idea of energy as the foundation of health. One of the tools within SAF is what we call the Operative Chart. Every organ and gland system in the body corresponds not only to physical function, but also to an emotional and situational pattern. The organ and gland system tells us about the physical condition. The condition reflects the action, whether that system is stressed, sluggish, or overactive. The low and high emotions show us the emotional dichotomy connected to that state, often the patterns that someone has lived with in the past or is confronting in the present. It's not about positive or negative. Instead, it's about balance. Both extremes of the emotional spectrum can hold us back. What SAF practitioners look for is the middle ground, a place where equilibrium can be restored. When these patterns are uncovered, often through questionnaires or infrared readings, they form what's called a chain. That chain is like a sentence, a way of telling the story of when and where certain stresses or traumas left their mark as it relates to the major complaint. The practitioner's role is not to diagnose or treat, but to help the individual recognize these patterns, recall the moment they were imprinted, and in that recognition, release the charge they still carry. As we look at the existence as an electromagnetic, energetic apparatus, we're looking to open that charge channel back up. This is how SAF helps make the invisible visible. It reveals the hidden architecture of experience that often drives our emotions, habits, and even our health challenges. Now let's talk a little bit about where SAF came from and how it was developed. Now there are several different lines to this as far as stories of SAF, and I will be going deeper into the story of SAF in a future episode string that will be called The Story of SAF. It's based on audio tapes that Joseph R. Scogna Jr. had taped in 1988, and it was one of his last tapes that he put out, and it was about the story of SAF. Now, a lot of what he did was revolved around selling a program. So a lot of the books or a lot of the written work you'll see is in mind of saying, we have this program, why don't you try it out? And he was selling it to clinics and clinicians and practitioners mainly. Towards the end of his time, in 86 to 88, he really was focusing on trying to make SAF a household name where everybody could use it, and taking it from the medical world into the open world. But he wrote in a very medical fashion, so the jargon and the headiness of the writing can be a little bit too much for the average person. Now, he got started because he himself had some health issues that he wanted to get answers for and wasn't able to get an answer for it. He went to the doctor. He had some issues. The doctor said, here, have some antibiotics to see if they work. They made it worse. They made him worse, made him sensitive to the sun, gave him, sun toxicity. And he realized that the most learned people that should know about wellness and health and medicine really didn't know much. They were basically pushing the pills, as he would say. So he went out to try and figure out how he could get the answers he needed for himself. So he designed this, of course, a lot of inventions are done this way, to solve a problem for himself. And in so doing, he stumbled upon the radiation studies that allowed him to create the chain of numbers. And in his research, he also joined this with techniques and processes and understandings, philosophies of homeopathy. Like attracts like heals like, that sort of thing. Now, these are very old concepts in alchemy and in cosmologies, Hermeticism, for example. You'll find a lot of these precepts there. So he did these studies. He studied the physics. He studied Einstein, but he also studied who Einstein studied. He wanted to know the root of the root. And in so doing, he created the SAF system, which is based on a radiation decay. This is according to him through one of our videos that we have on the SAF training, SAF archives page on YouTube, where you can see about his story of where the numbers came from. Now, one of the things that people stumble up on is that there are numbers. Their major complaint, they're supposed to dissect their issues through numbers. Now, why numbers? Because numbers are universal. Because utilizing numbers with SAF, you can utilize SAF on anything, anywhere, anybody in the universe, because we all speak the language of numbers. So in translating our issues, our problems, whatever we're looking to have resolved, get a resolution for, into a matrix of numbers, we have then translated into something that everyone can understand. Should you be able to translate the meaning, the symbology behind the numbers themselves? Now, it's not like numerology. This is what I thought first when I started studying SAF was, is this a numerology thing? No, it's not. It's just that the numbers take a place so that we're able to translate it out. And we want to have a veil between a practitioner and participant. The practitioner doesn't need to know everything about the person. This isn't like psychology or anything like that. The practitioner's job is to give the cues for the person to unlock these aha moments, to find and stumble upon the things that have trapped their energy, that they know, they just don't know. And sometimes they do know, but it's basically uncovering things that are usually long forgotten, that have gobbed up energy in the past. And so one person's 6 is not going to be somebody else's 6. It's just the way that the energy is interpreted at the moment in time that they're seeking back. So you take a string of numbers between 1 and 24. There's a representation for each number, and there are keywords in the operative chart that allow the practitioner to give certain phrases or keywords for the participant to think about and dwell upon at a certain age. And that is usually, that will suffice to unlock the energy pattern at that time. It may open up a new clarity and understanding on these experiences that have happened before. So, many examples could be brought up, but I stubbed my toe when I was very little, and I now walk a certain way when I walk on the sidewalk, and maybe I forget why I do that. But if I seek back far enough, I can see that I started doing that when I was really, really young. I tripped once, and now I avoid the cracks and the spaces. So something like that is a program that's running in the background. A lot of times this is good for survival, and a lot of times these little ones can be bigger ones, and they're trapping our experience and are trapping our ability to look at the world with childlike eyes, which is kind of what we want to do, is get back to the basics with experiencing life and be free from the tangles. So the history of it involves my Joseph R. Scogna's desire for something to answer questions, and his creation of something that was a question answerer. Basically, take the question, translate it into numbers. You get a string of numbers that come out, and then you have to decipher that string of numbers. We call it the human Rosetta Stone, because it's an ability to just kind of zoom in on certain aspects that may not seem like they relate, but typically once you unlock the steps backwards in the chain, they do seem to relate. It's very interesting how energy works that way. kind of does a 180 and then another 180. The history of SAF goes back into the 70s. My dad started to develop and write books in the late 70s, and then you had the explosion of new interest in wellness and health in his area, which is the Philadelphia area, due to 3 Mile Island. And 3 Mile Island immediately created a massive swarm of interest in radiation and in getting prepared for something that might be dangerous. So he was there at the time, and that's pretty much what spurred a lot of the studies and interest at that time. He wrote The Threat of the Poison Rain, which was about electromagnetic pollution. It was one of his first book published. And then The Prometheon, which is what was his answer to the spiritualists or the alchemists' periodic table of elements on the energetic side. So the periodic table, comes from alchemy, obviously, and it's very far past. And there was a split where it became very physical. This is kind of the other half of the periodic table. This is the part that got split off. That was put out in '82, but I believe he was writing that when he was doing The Threat of the Poison Rain. He was writing many books all at once. So it's when they were developed is a little different than when they were published. You'll see on the dates on the books. He put out an electromagnetic book, the Project Isis, which is a very positive type of name. That Project Isis involved the goddess Isis and how she was the first one to use heat to help and cure people, through her powers. So it's not anything related to the current day Isis. It has to do with the goddess Isis being the first to be using methods and was a healer as well. Remember that the source of all of this is for wellness. So a lot of this is, our desire for this is for wellness. So Project Isis is a means of, for me, for you, for everybody, to lay down some of the physics and the concepts in a electromagnetic or a electrician's type of way of understanding things, of voltage and amps and all that. So it's just another way of looking at the world that we live in and understanding more aspects of it. We consider that a level 2 book because it gets headier. It's not necessary for somebody that's just getting initiated into SAF, but it does have a lot of great information into it. So it's highly sought after, and it is of course available. So it's not like it's out of print. And then of course we have many other books. Origins of Genetic Behavior, which we've renamed Junk DNA in the modern time. Homeopathy Revisited, which was initially Homeopathy 1980. He re-envisioned the idea of homeopathy. He took it out of what it was and gave it new life, joined it to the SAF system so that it would have a way to interpret people's major complaints and put that into numbers, and then it can come out with different homeopathic remedies to work with the pressures present in the chain. And of course, there's a lot of programs. So I have banker box after banker box full of programs of SAF. And these are floppy disk programs, handwritten notes that go into the different chain uplinks that have different means and methods for alleviation, to alleviate or remedy a certain chain snippet. So if you have a string of numbers 1, 2, 8, and 19, then maybe it is the color purple that you need to be hit with or wear or something like that. That will help to alleviate the pressure of that chain snippet. We call them uplinks. So there's a lot of nuance to it, obviously. We do have training, and obviously that is a way that you can get involved and find out more about the nuances of the SAF system. Suffice it to say that I'm going to be going into the story of SAF in another string. That will be a lot longer, and it'll have his audio. I'll likely be pairing that with a book as well at some point. So we come out of the 80s, the early 80s into the mid 80s. He has now developed the infrared method, which is an objective method of getting a chain. That was by far the most important thing that he developed, and that is to take a heat imprint off of somebody and interpret that into a chain, and then interpret that into our terms for what the issues are. Now, because of that, he was able to develop a whole different method of discovery with people that can't speak, with animals, anything, because of the radiation coming off of different entities. So you'll see that in some of the books as well. We have a few books that go into how to use that, as well as how to get the chain from that. We have the chain processing for that on our website as well. So then we move into the mid 80s, the late 80s, and he has developed the Secret of SAF. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's a culmination book, which is about the size, at the time, was the size of the Prometheon. A very large book about when it was bound. I think it was 2.5, 3 inches wide, thick, very thick book. And we have some of those, and probably be offering some of those old books for auction at some point in time. So he developed this new method. He had programs with a computer. He had lots of books. That was the 80s. Then he, if you get the Secret of SAF, there's in the new version, there's a very good forward introduction from my mom, who wrote the forward for it when she compiled it, turned it into maybe it's an inch thick now. I think it's a 270 page. It was nearly 1,000 pages, like 800 pages or something like that before, because of the way it was, the font and everything like that, the formatting. But the introduction's very good in there and insightful. The introductions are very insightful in most of the books that she put out, because she wanted to give people the information, what they were going to read and how it related to SAF and to the story of Joseph R. Scogna Jr. and SAF and life energy. And so then he passed away in 89, and my mom took the reins of the business, but didn't do much with it because she wasn't sure where to begin for about 10 years. In 99, she put a presence on the internet and found out that there was interest through people that had used it before and were like, where was it? Where's it been? So she brought it back, and she brought it back in the website, and then she compiled and rewrote these books over the next 5 years. She also came out with the Secret of SAF, the SAF Simplified, which is a simplified version. I think it's fantastic because it allows everybody to get a peer into. It's kind of like a grade 1 to 6. So very, very preliminary information. And it's what we use for training level 1 currently. We'll also have that in our launch, which we'll talk about very soon here. She did take over that, recompiled the books and fixed errors that were known of in the 80s, and also changed some of the verbiage so that it makes more reader sense. It's much more reader friendly than newer books. And then subsequently she put out multiple other books during her tenure with Life Energy Publications as the owner. And those being Project ISIS she brought back out, Junk DNA, as we were saying, and a bunch of other ones. And basically maintained the business until about 2020. And that is when I took over. So I've taken over the business to redevelop and revitalize, advance the business forward into the future, and to inspire new readers and get new people interested in SAF, because it is an amazing system. It really helps you to learn about yourself, which is very, very important in controlling yourself and knowing about who you are. You get the reins to react or act the way that you feel like you need to in the present time instead of what you've been programmed through multiple occurrences in your history, in your life experience. I can go into that in further detail in the future if you'd like. So that's basically the story as it rolls. And I will go in depth into the story of SAF in the series that I'll do on the story of SAF, which will have audio, Joe speaking from his own life and his own experience as to what was going on, and tell the tale and the story of SAF from that time, which is I find very valuable. Now, as we're talking about uncovering patterns and restoring balance, this is the perfect time to share some exciting news. October 1st, we're relaunching 2 cornerstone books of the SAF system. The Secret of SAF is Joseph R. Scogna Jr.'s definitive text on the self-awareness formulas. This is considered a level 3 training book designed for serious students who want to explore the deep connections between organs, emotions, and the 64 dichotomies of life. And we're also putting out, as a bundle, SAF Simplified, the entry-level text that introduces you to the numbering system, organs and glands, and the method for uncovering long-forgotten traumas that still affect you presently. Together, these books offer both accessibility and depth, the beginner's path and the advanced roadmap. And for this relaunch, we're offering them bundled at a very special reduced price, making it easier for more people to step into this work. If you've been curious about SAF, this is your opportunity to start or to go deeper. Whether you're exploring for personal growth, professional training, or both, these texts hold the keys to unlocking a profound level of self-awareness. So as you think about your own patterns, consider this. What emotions, what stresses, what memories might still be shaping your present? SAF offers a way to explore these questions and to begin shifting from unconscious reaction into conscious awareness. Be sure to check the show notes for links to the book launch and other resources. And if this episode sparks something in you, share it with a friend. The more of us who begin this journey of awareness, the stronger the collective shift will be. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Nic Scogna, and this has been the Holistic Monitor.
What we're saying here is that radiation in our terms could be anything coming from a source that was once sun generated. Or at the same time, it can be spiritually generated. In other words, radiation can be considered when an individual is yelled at by someone else. When someone gets angry at another person and radiates energy at them by yelling at them, then that could be considered radiation. And that can cause this breakdown sequence to occur. It could be food. It could be radiation coming from fluorescent lights, electrical wires, body odor from another person. Anything, any energy that interferes or intersects or interacts with the human body can cause this breakdown pattern to occur.